everyone. My name is Katie Bethel, and I'm the founder and executive director of Paid Leave for the United States, which is the campaign to win paid family and medical leave for everyone in the US by 2022. This is our interview series where I chat with dynamic leaders about paid leave and the amazing work that they're doing to change work culture across America. And today I am over the moon excited to welcome my inspiring, brilliant friend and colleague, Cheryl Contee. Cheryl is the award-winning CEO and co-founder of DoBigThings, which is an amazing digital agency that creates a new narrative and new tech for this new era, and they're focused on causes and campaigns. She's also the Amazon best-selling author of Mechanical Bull, How You Can Achieve Startup Success. And she was the co-founder of social marketing software Attentively at Blackbaud, which was all right. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to do you right, Cheryl. Sorry.
Okay. You know what? You're doing great. Okay.
Yeah. All right. One more time. Am I still in the thing? I'm not looking. Okay, great.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Bethel, and I'm the founder and executive director of Paid Leave for the United States, the campaign to win federal paid family and medical leave policy for everyone in the US by 2022. And welcome to our interview series where I talk to amazing leaders from around the country who are doing amazing things with paid leave and changing work culture in America today. Today, I am so excited to introduce Cheryl Contee, who's a dear friend and colleague. She's been a part of the Plus family for a long time. She is the founder of DoBigThings, co-founder of DoBigThings, which is a digital agency that Plus is so proud to work with. They focus on causes and campaigns, bringing in exciting new narratives and new tech for this era. Cheryl is also an author. She wrote Mechanical Bull, How You Can Achieve Startup Success, which is an Amazon bestseller, and you have to check it out. And she was the co-founder of this really cool software called Attentively at Blackbaud. Her startup was the first startup with a Black female founder on board in history to be acquired by a NASDAQ-traded company. Cheryl is also the co-founder of the tech inclusion initiative, Yes We Code. She has so many more accolades, even beyond that I couldn't fit into the bio. Please, Cheryl, welcome. Hello.
Hi, Katie. It's great to be here with you.
I'm so happy to be here with you instead of outside where the apocalypse is happening.
Yeah. So, at the time of recording, the West is on fire. There are something like 35 fires in Oregon right now. The largest fires in California history are still not contained. And so, at least what Katie and I and a lot of other people here on the West Coast are experiencing are essentially day turned to night. It is, the street lights are on, it's the middle of the day. Everyone needs headlights to drive. There is a mist of ash falling, although they say that the air quality is not that bad. It's just it looks like a dystopic apocalyptic.
Here's my window outside. It's noon. That's outside.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, and it's dark. I think that's the unsettling part of it, is that it is like, I call it the day the sun didn't rise. Like, it is still night.
And it's just another example of how, as employers, these times, COVID-19, like resurgence of a call for true racial justice in America, fires, all of these things really call on employers to think differently about how we're engaging with employees, how we're supporting employees. Today's apocalyptic moment, certainly in play, but thinking about this whole year 2020, how are you doing? How is the DoBigThings team doing and adapting to all of these crises?
Sure. Well, the good news for us is that, we were working in the way that everyone had to learn before it was cool. I've run virtual teams for 15 years. And so, we already, were, very accustomed to Zoom. A lot of people told me that it was the first time they used Zoom was with us. And they're like, no, I use it every day. I was like, yeah, welcome to my world. We use Slack, we use Redbooth. We have a lot of tools that we use to pull together our team, which is all around the country. We have people on the West Coast, the Midwest, the South, and even on the East Coast. And, that has enabled us to be nimble. So to a certain extent, our lives didn't, our actual working lives and the way that we work didn't change much, in the wake of COVID. We were able to switch gears, fairly rapidly. And, because we already had unlimited paid time off, we were able to be really flexible, with our team. And, I think the biggest thing that happened with our team was, we have parents, we have some parents on board, and, they suddenly had things they have to do during the day. We had to sort of adapt to their
support
schedules
for an entire elementary school. Yes.
Well, right. In some cases are just like, I've got to figure out how to get this kid to sit down and do these lessons. And, because, we are a flexible workplace, because we are a virtual team, that already had family friendly policies in place, we just worked it out, was like, okay, what do you need? Clearly, like, with one of my, team members, it was clear that, she was really getting the blues with trying to work with her kid at home. And I was like, stop fighting this. Like, just spend the first 2 hours of the morning working with her, let people know, and then come to work. Like, it's fine, just fine, like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, this is something that I'm hearing from all of my interviews are with women leaders, women of color leaders. And I think this thing that you're highlighting around already having a lot of these best practices in place. DoBigThings team is woman owned, women led, 50% women of color. It can't be an accident that in that configuration, you also are on the leading edge of business practices that support flexibility.
Well, and right, I think we're living proof that, not only are those policies humane, but they also lead to better, flexibility and productivity. We really didn't lose a beat in terms of, and at a time when, partners like, Paid Leave US needed us more than ever, we were right there. We were right there. It wasn't like, we were trying to, spin up all these systems, or, a whole bunch of people are out and we don't know where they were, like we were still open for business exactly the same way, more or less, that we were before COVID. And that's not true of, I think, most American businesses or even global businesses.
You are a real thought leader in the business space. And I'm wondering if in your conversations with other business leaders, what you're hearing from them about about how they're adapting, and what sort of the big barriers are that they're facing, where you're like, I know the answer because we're doing it.
Yeah, what I've heard from, friends and colleagues who are leading organizations or senior in organizations or running teams is, especially if you're used to being in the same room with people, and, you're used to that kind of dialogue and that kind of, just daily banter, this kind of communication, on Zoom or other video conference can feel very alienating. It can feel, less productive, just because you're getting used to a different mode of communication, right? How do you communicate, when it's all has to be over email or chat? Maybe you're not used to those tools. People have had to lean much more heavily on technology in some cases than they did before, even if they considered themselves tech savvy. So I think that that's been one of the struggles is, what does culture mean? What does team culture mean? What does team cohesiveness mean? What can I expect from team members, who are also trying to homeschool their kids? Like, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I also need to understand what I can rely on you for, and when are you going to be in the what's happening. So I think, that has been a challenge, which again, because of the way that we were already working, it was much easier for us to make tweaks. For us, it wasn't like, completely building down, breaking down the house and rebuilding it. It was just, tightening a few screws, here and there.
Let's dig in on that a little bit more, because one thing that I hear you highlighting is there's this sort of virtuous cycle between culture and policy, where you have sort of maybe start with a foundation of a certain approach to flexible work, to paid leave. you mentioned unlimited PTO as like the stuff in the handbook. And then there's how you implement that as a team with things like clear handoffs and, whatever other things. Let's start with the policy. Give us some detail about the kind of policies that you had in place, maybe even before coronavirus, so we can get a sense of what was that foundational piece of like what's in the handbook.
Sure. Well, look, I don't have the handbook in front of me, but I can
Yeah.
always pull it out. But yeah, look, our handbook was really designed to be, we want this to be a place that supports you. Like I tell my team that my job as CEO is twofold. First, it's to spread the gospel and tell, the people out there, all the great work that you do and get them excited about working with you. And the second is to make sure that you have all of the resources that you need to rock your job. Right. And so the handbook is very much, designed in that way of, what do people need? What's the support infrastructure we need individually? What is the support infrastructure we need as a team, as a group, in order, to deliver our best? And, you don't get your best out of people by, cracking the whip and, trying to squeeze as much work out of them out of every hour of the day. Especially in the work that we do as a digital agency, we're creatives. We have to come up with great ideas. We have to write, we have to design. There's so many creative things that we need to do that, it's you want to provide then, that underpinning of, enough support and infrastructure and policies, that support, people. So, one of the things that really can impact productivity, as is like stuff that's going down at home. Yeah. Right. Like, we're human beings. And I do think that that's one benefit of COVID that, especially I think for men in particular, but also for women, I think that, all of a sudden you had no choice but to bring together your home life and your work life.
Yes.
And negotiate.
Case in point, my cat in the background.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? It's fine. Not only is it not fine, I actually feel I know you better. I feel more connected to you, right? Like I see you as a full human being and not, a droid, in the Borg or whatever, right? Like I think that, that's the gift. If there is any sort of gift from this time, it's that, we have all been forced, to, take on some new challenges, but also to say, look, I'm a human being. I have my home life. I have my work life. The boundaries between those, need to be permeable enough for me to manage and balance both. And that's always been the case. It's not like that wasn't true before. It's just that we were trapped in kind of this old, I guess, I don't know, like, 20th century paradigm of like, there is the person in the family who goes to work and they are at work. And there's the person who is at home and they are doing home. And there are these, and they have a very brief overlap of dialogue at night and in the morning, and that's it, right? And maybe they see each other on the weekends, or dad goes golfing, like that's it. Whereas now we live in a very separate time, a very different time.
So you are not only an inspiring leader and CEO, you're also a mom, which makes you an inspiring leader too. And one thing that we know is that having caregiving responsibility, the responsibility of having a child at home, but also the responsibility for caring for maybe aging parents, is one of the major causes of what we call the leadership gap, where, only 14% of major companies are headed by women today. What advice would you give to somebody who is confronting those barriers around being a person who is providing care as a parent or child?
It is a challenge. Of course, being a single mama CEO is not easy. Let me tell you. I'm waiting for the sitcom, that like actually describes my insane life as a single mama tech CEO. Like when I have enough time, I'll write it, because my life is insane. But
well, and I just want to throw a stat behind that. Like half of babies born in America today are being born to unpartnered parents. Like this sort of cultural idea that unpartnered parenting is an anomaly is totally untrue. It's the way that people are having children today. And we need to start having policies that reflect and support that.
Right. Well, because those people are necessary, they need jobs, they need jobs to live, and they can still be, very productive. Look, if you're a single parent, you are a very good time manager. Okay. You're willing to work hard. All right. Like, no question. Like you're showing up, you are a responsible citizen, right? Because you're showing up for that kid every day. And, look, my personal, beliefs are that, when we support women, we support the economy, period. And, one of the reasons the American economy is as strong as it is because, we have, a lot of women in the workforce, but, the policies haven't kept up with the needs, of a different style of workplace, that is really accommodating, women. And look, something like 1 in 4 millennials are caretaking for an older adult. Like, it's not just, it's not just women. I mean, those are, it's men now who also, are bearing the burden, of childcare and elder care. And, what all of the studies show, and certainly our experience as a firm shows that, when you give people, the freedom, to responsibly manage their time, you get the best work out of them. I think that, what has been holding people, maybe some, CEOs or HR reps back is feeling like, well, is it a Pandora's box? If we allow people to manage their own schedules, and not insist on this kind of 9 to 5 situation, that all hell will break loose. Nobody will ever show up to work again, et cetera, et cetera. If we have unlimited PTO, people are just, going to not show up for work. And that's not actually how people use that time. Instead they say, look, as in the case of, the homeschooling situation, look, from 8 to 10 a.m., I need to be with my kid. That means I'm starting work a little bit later, but I'll be, I'll still be online. I'll still be working at 7, right? Like, I'm just shifting my hours around. Or, I need to take some time out of the day to take a kid to the doctor. It's not a big deal. I'll be online later after the kid goes to sleep. Like, if you allow people to just, if you trust your team enough to actually allow them to make smart decisions about their time so that they can support not only their work, but the people in your lives, what you get is an employee that you're more likely to retain, which is really important, especially for those in tech. Retention is a really, really big issue. So, we actually have great retention rates, twice the average, or sometimes 3 times the average for a tech company. So, proof it's working. And that saves money in the long run and provides, better quality work. But okay, a team member who you're more likely to retain for longer, a team member who is more productive. All of the studies show that when you actually, the reason we did unlimited PTO was to actually, create, more productivity. And I'll tell you, when we first did it, Katie, I admit I was a little worried. I was like, I don't know. Okay, we'll give it a try, and, we'll see what happens. But, what it actually did was, especially for our hardest working team members, all of a sudden they really finally felt permission to take some time off. And you know what we got was so much better quality work, so much more present, so much more creativity, able to bust through things a lot faster. You just get that higher productivity, and then that higher productivity, of that employee, you retain them, they're more productive, you make more money. Okay. It's more profit, right? Everybody wins.
Get that money.
Get that money. What's not to like about that? And also then, people are happier. You have a happier, team force, which then creates that stronger culture that makes it easier to recruit more people in.
And gets your team through these dark days.
Literally dark days, yes.
Did you see the piece that was going around about tech companies the other day, where they were talking about the backlash by non-parents about all the lucky benefits that parents are getting in tech? I saw that, And I'm curious about like, how, as you look at that, like how you think about it.
Yeah, I sure did see that. And I understand where it's coming from because, if you're, and there have been some, whispers of that, or, some sparks of that in the past where people will be like, oh, well, you're giving them, all this,
Mm,
paid time off because they had a baby. But what about me? I'm never going to have a baby. When do I get my paid time off? And I think that that is, because, we no longer, because families operate differently,
mm,
families are no longer as, together, living in the same space. And so even if you haven't had a child, you see the struggle, of your sister or your brother who's had a
mhm,
child, right? I think that people just, if you don't have a child or children, it's almost impossible to understand, that, that's a whole other level of responsibility, of work, that it's actually work, that, if you're having, when I first had my baby, like the first month, I was like, I can't do email, I can't talk to, and like, I just need to try to figure out how to get through the next 10 minutes. Okay. Like, I don't understand,
literally.
like literally, like I need to figure out how I'm going to survive these next 15 minutes. And then, after a month, I was able to spend like 2 hours. I got a lot of really good advice from other friends, which is, part of the challenge of the American way of dealing with maternity and paternity leave is that it's kind of 0 to 60, right? Like you're
Mhm.
off, and then all of a sudden you're expected to just sort of shift gears and just come back
Yeah.
to work. And the advice I got was like, if you can, actually just step up, that's going to be a smoother. And that's what I did, so, month
Mhm.
2, it was, 2 hours a day. It was all I had because I'd had a C-section, which, as
Yeah.
takes time to recover from.
Yeah.
Like, I, so 2 hours a day was all I had, but I could get a lot done in 2 hours, like a focused 2 hours. I actually got a lot done. Then it was 4, 6, 8. And then, I was, back at work full time. But, when you, again, had the luxury, very much the luxury in this country of being able to design, essentially my maternity leave. But all I'm trying to say is, I could never have imagined, even as someone who's pretty compassionate, who's, pretty open. I have a lot of cousins who have kids, etc. Like, the burden. I mean, it is a joyful
Mhm.
burden, but the burden of
Mm.
having kids, I think for a lot of people, who don't have kids, are like, what's the big deal? Kids are great. They're running around. You put on some Paw Patrol, like, and that they don't understand that, like, it's not, a parent who's asking for time is asking for, to do work of a different nature. It's not that they're just going to sit around eating bonbons, while their kid, is playing in the backyard. They're actually working really hard.
Oh, I dream of that day.
Yeah. When does that happen? When does that
When is
click
that
in?
day?
I just don't have to manage his activities at all. Yeah. So, I think that, it's a sign, it's a signal of our society that, people, their lack of compassion and imagination of, like, my life is different because I don't have kids. I mean, you hear it even here where people are like, well, why should I pay property taxes that go for school if I don't have kids? It's like, that's not how society works.
No, no,
That's not
it
a
runs
society.
against basic survival techniques. Like if a ship wrecks in the middle of the ocean, everybody doesn't just go, okay, like I'm gonna swim that way, you swim that way, we'll see you later. Like you band together.
Right. Well, and we all have an interest in school, in
Yeah.
kids educated. And you know what, young person who's complaining about, you know, leave or property tax, someone paid for you who didn't have kids. Someone already made that choice for you and didn't complain about it. So I think, what, instead of those people complaining about, other people, getting some extra support, while they're struggling, to manage childcare and a whole other, area of work that they have to deal with and managing that, saying, I want, at the moment when I might need support, I want to make sure that I have things built in. Now, that's not to diminish, the isolation, because we've heard it from some of our, single young team members. We're like, I'm alone all day long. Like, I feel like I'm going crazy. Where's the support for me, and what we instituted and what a lot of folks have instituted, some people it's been a day off, like Fridays off. For us, it was a half day on Fridays, just to say, look, we get that this is a really difficult time for everybody, no matter kids, no kids, got family at home, got no family at home, like, serious COVID issues where you live, not so serious. Like, we get that it's a difficult time. Like, take some time to rest, because again, we know that we get our best work from our team when they are rested.
One thing that, I've known you since 2006, and one thing that I've always admired about you is your ability to really see at a very top level the narratives that are happening in America and be able to sort of hear through the noise to the signal of what's happening. I want to tap into that a little bit with this question. So we have the election coming up. We have this moment where, because of coronavirus, everything that we're talking about, the idea that taking care of children is work and is an asset to the economy, the idea that supporting employees goes beyond the paycheck, right, to having leave policies and other, mental health days supports in place. Do you think that that is going to have an impact on the way that these issues play out in a political sense?
I think it has to. There is a great site, you've probably heard of it, A Story at Scale, where they've done, some audience analysis, and one of the key audiences that they found was kids first. People were just like, look, I'm just trying to get policies in place that are going to help me deal with these badass kids and are going to support me as a parent, right? And support our society. And I think that, if you're a parent, I know as a parent, I'm looking around at these dark skies, and having to rethink, the way that I'm, the way that I'm approaching, even my own choices. So, my hope is that, especially I think, again, as men, had to take on a greater share of childcare. I think that hopefully it has given a lot of people, who are leaders, again, as you pointed out, the majority of CEOs in America are men. Hopefully it's given them, I think, a little more insight and a little more compassion into what they've been asking of their staff, and figuring out that, it's actually possible, and in fact, better. It's not just possible, it is better to make some changes that actually support our team, that then get us as a company better results. And then, politically speaking, yeah, that starts to trickle up into, what are my leaders saying? There was someone on the news, I forget, Tom Tillis, Senator Tom Tillis. I don't know if you heard about this, where, a woman who's had cancer 3 times, has been calling her members of representatives and is saying, look, I'm worried that I'm going to lose my health care. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I need health care more than ever, because I'm at higher risk to COVID because of, my cancer journey. And, the staffer was basically like, well, if you can't afford healthcare, then you just don't have it.
Yeah.
Just
Good
like
luck with that.
if I can't afford, I might want a nice dress shirt. This is what he said. If I might want a nice dress shirt, but if I can't afford it, I'm not going to buy it. Like, that way of thinking is so out of step from what I would say, what probably 99% of Americans, actually want, and believe is right. Right? Like, I don't think that anyone would look at that and hear that and say, yes, that resonates with me. That's an appropriate message or appropriate policy in this time, because we can all see now that doesn't work. Like, not providing healthcare makes everything worse. The fact, I think that there is absolutely a connection between the fact that the United States has struggled in a way with COVID-19 that no other industrialized nation has. And it's because we're the only industrialized nation, one of actually the few nations in the world that doesn't have universal health care. We are one of very few nations that in the world that doesn't have, paid time off, paid sick leave, paid maternity leave. Like, it's not a coincidence.
Yeah. So, Cheryl, we have this moment of great challenge that also creates great opportunity for change. Change happens because we rebel rouse. Change happens because we blaze new trails. And you, as a Black woman founder, CEO, executive, are a trailblazer. What advice do you have for all the budding trailblazers out there who see the same moment that we do and want to make it into something that really changes this country?
Absolutely. Well, they say where there's crisis, there is opportunity. And you and I, being here in the West, we're living through a pretty serious climate crisis right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's affecting everyone's lives. Rich, poor, Black, white, Latinx, Native, Asian American, I don't care who you are, like we're all living through the same thing. And so, my advice, to those coming up is to figure out, okay, there are problems, right? We're facing some really big problems. What kinds of solutions can I bring to the table? You can't fix it all. No one person can. But you may have some ideas, and you may be able to join with others who have ideas. And we're seeing that, like that's happening out there.
Hmm.
So, my hope is that, people will see this as an opportunity to take stock of their lives, to look around them and observe the trends and figure out, okay, what can I do? And, this is a great opportunity for entrepreneurship. And, one of the reasons I became an entrepreneur was to have, frankly, more control, and over my own destiny, and more control over my life. And I was lucky enough to also then be able to hire and, apply those same values to, improve the lives of my teammates. But look, you can do it. And there's never been a better time for entrepreneurship in some ways than now.
Yeah. And I love that you're highlighting that as an entrepreneur, you have an opportunity to change the world. And then you also have the opportunity to build an organization that's building that change from within.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really exciting, including with policies like paid family leave.
Can't do it without paid family leave, honestly. It's not possible.
Well, thank you, Cheryl. I think I could talk to you all day, but I think our time is up and I'm crushed because I'd rather talk to you than face the apocalypse.
Well, and I'm so grateful. I remember when, I think we were talking about it earlier, I remember when Paid Leave US launched. And,
You
I
were
remember when
there.
it was a twinkle in your eye, and now it is this, it's never been more important in a way, an organization for the times that we're living through. And so I'm so grateful for your work. I'm so grateful for your team, and for all of your partners.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, we're going to keep locking arms and fighting the good fight. All right, I'm going to close us out. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching today. Cheryl, thank you for sharing all of your insights and brilliance with us. And if anybody wants to check out, and please do check out Do Big Things, just go to dobigthings.today, which I love that URL. That's so cool.
It's sassy, right?
And tune in again, and we'll talk to more awesome leaders who are changing America every day. Thank you so much.